we can get into the dating space if you want, but the dating space is becoming progressively worse as far as in real life. If you guys have noticed, anyone who's watching this who's over the age of like 40, if you guys go to, you remember what nightclubs or bars or any kind of like place you go have brunch, any sort of in real life interactions where men and women who are single are supposed to meet, frat party, whatever you want to call it. If you remember 20, 30 years ago, like Daytona Beach, do you remember those MTV Daytona Beach? And what is it's just nothing but girls. When you go out in real life now, there are no girls. It is madness. You go to nightclubs now and it is like 2/3 or 3/4 men everywhere because women are getting their validation through social media. And so the women, the attractive single women have sort of been sucked out of the in real life market. And so the way that you end up meeting them now is by having a really great social media presence and by throwing incredible events where you tilt the balance in your scale. I went out for my birthday Thursday. And it was me and 22 girls or 24 girls. That was it. There was no guys. And then I had 2 or 3 of my guy friends show up. And so I'm at a table and it's 4 guys and it's 24. I have pictures to prove this if you want to see it. And that's how I set my birthday up every year. I don't invite any guys. And then on what I did on Saturdays, I had a basketball tournament and I had 20 of my guy friends show up and we played a basketball tournament. So my guys come on Saturday, but the girls come on Thursday. And that's the way I would do it. And so what I try to generate for men, and it's very easy to do with just a little bit of brand building, is I try to create a level 2 or 3, what I call a mid-tier level of fame. And when you have that, now all of a sudden getting a job becomes easier because also, by the way, your boss, can you imagine, just imagine, Ted, this whole thing, this podcast right here, you get to the point where you're getting 200,000 views of video on YouTube. Your employer now understands that is a leverage point in your contract. You know that, right? You know that your agent is going to use that as a leverage point in your future contract. You have built a brand, so now professionally you're more viable. And now every time a woman understands, I have a competent man who has access to scarce resources, I can't leave him. I can't let this one get away. And so now you have more women competing for your attention. And so this is throughout history, it's just been like this. Throughout history, only 40% of men and 80% of women have reproduced. There's been a bottom 60% of men that just don't reproduce. Now, amongst other primates, we're kind of in the middle. Bonobos, like almost all of them reproduce because they're just very sexually promiscuous. But amongst gorillas, it's like 1 or 2% of gorillas, males, have sex with all the females. Elephant bull seals, you might have one male have sex with 90 females, and like no other male gets to have sex with any of them. So the term is hypergamous or polygynous societies. Homo sapiens are somewhat polygynous, but because we become more egalitarian in our nature, women have become more polygamous. And what happens is there's a smaller and smaller group of men at the top who have unlimited options with women. And then let's look at the other end of the scale. This is the part, if you guys ever watch Professor Scott Galloway, he describes this really, really well. And I also like to point this out. Professor Scott Galloway is a political liberal. This isn't some political thing. Like it legitimately, there's a group of men at the bottom, regardless if you're a Democrat or Republican, there's a group of men at the bottom that are being left behind. They're being left behind economically because, and this is, I'm not complaining about this, but because 60% of enrollees in college are now female, what's happened is there's fewer men going to college. And when those women graduate, they want men who make the same amount or more. In fact, a recent survey shows that women want men who make about 65% more than them. So if a woman makes $100,000 a year, she wants a man who makes about $165,000 a year. Rihanna was worth several $100 million dating a billionaire. It was not a situation where when women became more wealthy, they didn't care about men's wealth. They actually care about men's wealth more the wealthier these women become and have fewer men to choose from. And of those men that are getting chose, there's a larger cohort of men that are not being chose at all. There's another study that shows that when men are unemployed or underemployed, that is a great determining factor about whether or not they've had any sex in the last year. Meaning it's more likely that a man goes a year without sex, the less money he makes. There's a direct correlation, which proves that hypergamy is real. And so you have this bottom third of men that are just being left behind in the dating market because of the fact that women have very selective choice. And it's not that the women's choice has changed evolutionarily. It's the same as it always has been. They just haven't been exposed to so many men. Like women all need it now because they can slide into the DMs of Drake, Michael B. Jordan, Tyga, whoever, because they can slide into Chris Hemsworth DMs, or you just pick any celebrity you want, Justin Bieber. They can slide in their DMs. Machine Gun Kelly If you're hot enough, Machine Gun Kelly will write you back. I know this for a fact because I've talked to several girls who've written him, and he'll write you back, and then he'll invite you out on the jet. And it's like, as a woman, you're like, do I go on a date with Bob, who has a really great job? He's an accountant. He makes about $200,000 a year, and he worships the ground that I walk on. Or do I jump on this private jet that Machine Gun Kelly sent out for me to go party with him in Los Angeles next weekend? And more women are choosing the MGK route. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then you saw one of my favorite things was those 23 women who are suing a man because he impersonated Lionel Messi. He looks exactly like Lionel Messi in the face, the famous soccer player. And these 23 women had sex with him, and then now they're suing him because he falsely impersonated Lionel Messi. My question to those women is, what would happen then if Lionel Messi's wife sued you? Because you had believed you were having sex with a married man, and you had no compunction against it whatsoever. It was no issue whatsoever. So it's one of these issues where it's like, you're starting to see women believe now that they should have access to high status men, and they're more willing to share high status men than to settle for low status men. And because of that, you see again, about a third of men under the age of 30 or 28% of men under the age of 30 are virgins, I believe, something like that. And at one point in like 2018, 2019, it was 28% of men under the age of 30 hadn't had sex in the last year. Some number like that, which is really, it's probably even crazier than that because a lot of those men were paying for prostitutes. So it's probably in the 40 percentile, something like that.